Hey, good afternoon. Good evening, guys. My name is Kula. Welcome to 24 Hours of PaaS, cross-platform SQL Server Management. We're excited you could join us today for Swagatika Sarangi's session on Power BI for Master Data Management. You guys may also have known of her as Jazz, which was the name that she used last year at last year's PaaS Summit. This 24 Hours of PaaS event consists of 24 consecutive live webinars delivered by expert speakers from the PaaS community. The sessions will be recorded and posted online after the event. You will receive an email letting you know when the recordings are available. In the past couple of years, those emails have usually gone out within a couple of days or so of the event, so be on the lookout for that. My name again is Kula. I am from Madison, Wisconsin, very involved in the PaaS community, so thank you again for joining us today. I have a few introductory slides about our program that I'd like to get through first, and then I'll turn it over to our presenter. Through the course of this webinar, if you guys have any issues, please feel free to use the chat and questions capabilities within the GoToWebinar. I'll be monitoring that and pass that on to our presenter if anything pops up. If I see any questions, I'll provide the question over to our presenter and she'll try to answer them. Otherwise, we do have a Q&A session towards the end that we can go through the questions. Next slide, please. Just wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors for sponsoring this awesome event. So we have Microsoft, Idera, SentryOne, Quest, and Redgate. Thank you for the sponsors. Next slide. If you do enjoy this event and other PaaS related events, and you haven't already heard of PaaS Summit, it's a really awesome conference for data professionals. It's a 3-day conference out in Seattle, November 6th through 9th. I would highly recommend for everybody to check it out. If you go to PaaSSummit.com, you can see all of the details about it. A lot of the schedules have already been posted. We have a pretty awesome lineup of pre-cons also that have been posted. So go there and check that out. Next slide. And I wanted to introduce you to our speaker, Swagatika Sarangi, also known as Jazz. You may go ahead now.
Awesome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. My name is Swagatika Sarangi. I go by Jazz. Today, I will be speaking about Power BI for Master Data Management, and we are talking about Microsoft products. So of course, it has to be Master Data Services. I hope not a lot of people are frowning because this is Master Data Services talk. Of course, we have had our situations with the previous versions and the capability of the tool, what it does, what kind of platform it provides. Although it is a raw tool and the web UI is not super solid for business user, there is a heck a lot of things that we can do around this tool when we are talking about reporting or self-service reporting platform. So I decided to change the flavor a little bit this time, although I will be covering about the nitty-gritty fundamental stuff of Master Data Services and do a little bit of demo. I know I promised in my abstract that I am going to present all the data in terms of communication between Power BI as well as Master Data Services. I work for a legal organization, and hence I was not able to get the approval from the company in terms of showing or displaying the data or using in the Power BI platform right now. Because of the ranger and security issues that we are dealing with. But I have my own demo with the personal data, so I'll be using that. Stating that, here is what I tend to present for Power BI as well as master data services. Before that, let me ask this question. Why do we need an MDM solution at all in our organization? And that's one of the fundamental questions that every organization should get started with when they're thinking about MDM. So as I have talked about this previously in past summit, about the father of data warehouse, Ralph Kimball, talking about single version of the truth and presenting that in enterprise data warehouse. To roll up a little bit from that talk and to associate that particular fundamental to master data services is that we need to have a single version of the truth or the golden record in any MDM or any system which is upstream to EDW, particularly when you're trying to differentiate between your data types. So we are talking about master data, transactional data, reference data, analytical data. If your data size is really huge for all of these 4 types of data, and you want to provide a solution which basically segregates all of these data types and consolidate that to various types of data warehouse, if you want to use that term for master data services, sure enough, go ahead. In that particular case, to provide a golden record for the teams that are using SQL Server, Master Data Services is one of the best tools that you can leverage without investing a single dollar extra for your solution. So from there, let's get started with Master Data Services. As I talked about, master data services is a layer that sits on top of SQL Server. You don't have to invest at all. Make sure that you're using a 64-bit Excel sheet and you have IAS version 7 or more, and then your MDM web UI is best suited for IE 7 or upper than that. And in this particular demo, I will be talking about various MDM models. And depending upon your model, you have various MDM subscription views. And with the 2016 release, we have been aware of 3 types of subscription views. So we'll discuss about that a little bit, and then talk about the relationship between the Excel sheet and the MDM web UI, how you can create a entity, attribute, and member from the Excel sheet and model from the MDM web UI, and then connect the MDM or MDS server to Power BI and create metrics based upon the models. And I believe that the organization that I'm working for is a best suited example, particularly when we are talking about link between MDS server as well as Power BI, just because of the nature of the data. You definitely don't want to expose all of your data that are there in your subscription view, including your model ID, UID, and certain other attributes which are very developer oriented. And security is a heavy case for all of those attributes. In that case, rather than providing a really big subscription views to your downstream system, which contain your model specific or domain specific data, you can segregate that to 2 metric presentation in a dashboard and have that communication going with either data stewards or developer or any of the business leader in a visualized pattern. And that would make more sense than the MDM web UI, which is not super promising in terms of a good look to your business leaders. And of course, to provide the access to the MDM web UI, you need to create many users. And if you're presenting a master data model to your executive leaders having 30 or 40 in numbers, the things can go out of your hand, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to move from Explorer to system administration to subscription view area to show what's happening in the web UI. And hence the purpose of this demo is just to present or communicate MDS data in an easier way to the business leaders, and the ability to track out the particular metrics from your master data management attribute list only. We're not talking about any other attribute list, and hence do a report that is meant for only master data users. And you can decide from there on that if you want to have just a product model or just a customer product and location model, and you don't want to add HR master data model to that. And other business decisions can happen just on the basis of these kind of reports. Alrighty, let's get to a little bit about the definition, and for the new viewers, listeners here in my session today who are not aware of master data services, what is it? Master data services is a tool that sits on top of SQL Server. It has basically three major ways of interacting with the data. Web UI is a platform which is basically designed for data stewards. First of all, second of all, business users. I say business users as second because 80% of the MDS web UI does provide the capability to the developers that they can go and change the data model from the web UI itself. So it depends on what section or the subject area of the MDM web UI you want to give access to what type of user. What does the web UI do? It keeps a single version of the truth for only the dimension members, and the major output of any of the MDM domain is your subscription view. Again, you can have three types of subscription view: current row, or the currently active records that we have, just the historical records. And then the third type is slowly changing dimension type 2. And then you can provide that big subscription view to any of your downstream system for further business reporting that can consolidate data with transactional data or any other data types. For this purpose of this demo, we would just be talking about getting that subscription view just for the master data and using that in Power BI, as well as using that in Cortana to present for companies who have multi-domain master data management, and to gain executives' attraction towards your MDM domain and hence make business decisions on top of that. So we are not talking about any transactional reporting here. And then the second way that the the tool can consume data or interact with data, if you're doing a bulk insertion, it's always advised to use a SSIS package. We would see a little bit of demo on that. You can always do a truncate and load package, and then that's for your pre-staging area. For your staging area, you can always do an incremental load for pushing data to your leaf tables. Again, I'm not talking about master data services basic architecture. This is a bit of 201 session, if you want to say. So I'm going to skip ahead certain nitty-gritty fundamentals of master data services. And then the third way is Excel add-in. You can create other than models, you can create entity, attributes, and members from your Excel sheet itself. If you have your MDS plugin installed, make sure you're always creating any of your models, or if you want to say use the word domain, go ahead, use that. Only at the master data services web UI. There are certain limitations what we should be doing at the Excel end, what we should be doing at SSIS end, or any of the ETL end, versus what we must be doing at web UI. So creating a model is one of the must work that you should be performing at the web UI section. So stating that, I just wanted to roll up a little bit and wanted to talk about other products that I am using in this section. And that is basically budgeting well enough for your master data in your project or company right now. So if you are a visualization heavy company and you're mostly thinking about what other flavors I can add and what other tools I can cherry pick out of my whole suite of BI applications that I have in my company, go ahead, use Alteryx if you want to provide a better data quality solution, or think about Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, Power Map for any of the visualization. But if you're thinking about MDM solution, you have a whole other set of tools in the market. Informatica MDM, I'm coming from that background, but hey, if you're sitting on top of, if you're most 80% of your company right now is using SQL Server, you don't have a lot of cross-functional teams, then master data services is one of the best use case that you can go for your MDM solution. And this is where I was going with that particular talk, that this is a very old slide, of course, talking about Microsoft Data Platform. And one day I was pondering about what all I can play around. As I said, I work for a legal organization, and I was thinking about the business need that we have right now. We have certain companies who are in relation with us for like past 20 years, and just to give a little bit of background about my company, it is Epic. It's a legal services company. What it does is it kind of captures all the data breach cases, class action cases, mass tort cases. So generally, any of the bad medical device, or one example would be Dr. Feta, US versus Dr. Feta, who was one of the doctor who was charging a lot for carcinogenic bad chemotherapy process. So that's one of the case that Epic is currently handling, or Tech Equifax data breach is one of our client as well. So what we do is we work around with companies like Deloitte, Wells Fargo, Dr. Fada, or any of the mass tort or Ranger cases who are very security heavy company. And we have been dealing with these companies for like past 20 or 30 years, and we have really huge petabyte size of data. And 90% of this data are, I would say, master data. Although in my abstract for this particular session, I was talking about the size being lesser, but my company is a whole different case, because any of the data that you're receiving in terms of case related or claimants related are basically talking about address line 1, address line 2, customer ID, social security number, my medical ID, and my insurance. These are all master data to me. They don't change over a period of time. So we decided that we would do a multi-domain MDM implementation, and most of the company is running on SQL Server and whole of the Microsoft suite. Then let's leverage Power BI and have our really 6 or 7 multi-domain MDM platform in a reporting format that can be easily consumable by the leadership team in the company. So I'm coming from this particular story. I thought my story would be relevant to some of the listeners here. So hence, I went ahead and was kind of playing around with various processes. And definitely, although this master data services does provide a UI, I would say most of the ETL work for all of these master data are being done by the SSIS packages. So if you want to say visualization in master data services, no, I would tend 30% vote towards that, but 70% of vote goes to master data services for performing ETL actions in my SSIS package. So that's pretty funny to know that you can use certain tool that Microsoft created a definition for that for certain use, but I am using that tool for something else. And that's perfectly fine as long as you're solving problems, right? All right. So to talk about the MDS Web UI, for the new users here, it does provide 2 sections, data task and admin task. Most of the business user are going to reside in the Explorer section. And let me jump ahead to my demo here and talk a little bit about my web UI. As you can see, I have my location model and using SQL Server 2016 master data services. I know this might sound very raw to a lot of people just because of the nature of the tool that you have the sections shown here. But then again, we are the section's gonna go interesting with MDS. And yes, there exists an interesting world with master data services. All right, so I was wrong here, as you can see. I am going to go to my Internet Explorer. So make sure you have installed your Silverlight well enough. And it was running right 5 minutes before. Give it a minute. In the meantime, let's follow that from the slide here. Explorer section is heavily used by the business users where you can go and select your entities and then perform any of the business rules on top of your attributes. If you want to perform any conditioning, if you want to update your attributes, you can perform CRUD operations at the Explorer section as well. And that update would make changes to your database leaf tables as well. Uh, and then make sure that you're installing master data services plugin for your Excel sheet. And basically, as I talked, Explorer does provide creation of the business rule, creation of or validating your data, performing any CRUD operation, having a good look at your entity attributes members, doing any analysis on top of that. If you have historical or slowly changing dimension type 2 implementation done on any other data models, you want to make sure that you're doing the same in alignment with the master data management model here, and that you can do here in the Explorer section. For that, you need to do the change tracking enabled when you're creating the attributes in the system administration section. So that's a good segue to jump into admin task. So what all are the capability of system administration? You have to, and that is the only one way that you can create your models in the system administration section. And by model, I mean that are you selecting your product model or customer model or location model? So basically, you're looking at really large size of data and trying to identify a group that it should be roll up to as a parent group. So if you have address line 1, city, state, zip code, let's create a location model. And you can only create that in the system admin area. And same for product, customer, or any other master data, multi-domain master data your company is trying to create. And you can create your entity attribute members in the entity and attributes in the system administration area. To load all the members to your model, it is always advised to perform the SSIS incremental load. I have had other use cases when you're running bulk insert statement or the DML statement from the SQL end just to push data to your from any of the pre-staging area to your leaf.
Hey, you are cutting out.
That being said, I remember that I think for the new users, I haven't said this clear enough that
Hey, I think you cut out the last few sentences.
Yes, I think it is connected now. Yeah, no worries. So I'm just going to repeat one sentence that you might have missed that I was saying: model, entity, attribute, members. These are in relational database term would be database, tables, columns, and rows, respectively. Just to make sure that alignment is clear and you're good to go as a data steward at the MDM web UI. So we heard about what all are the capabilities of system administration. Let's jump to integration management area. Integration management is where you create your views. Subscription view. Subscription view is the end product of any of the master data services domain or the models that you're creating. So a subscription view can be of three types, as I mentioned previously. It's a current row subscription view that does not contain any of the historical data, or you can have just historical subscription view that doesn't contain any of the active rows. Or the third way of going about creating a subscription view is implementing slowly changing dimension type 2, which should contain both of your current row as well as your historical record. So that's a good way for reporting, because in that way you know what kind of data you consumed and what didn't interest the business users, so that they deleted that from the Explorer section, and you can perform a linear regression on top of that data, the master data that you lost or the master data that went under the CRUD operation, because the definition of master data says that this data is going to be consistent for a long period of time, but sometimes that's not the case. So the best way of approaching master data is exactly when you're creating a report out of your master data domain or the model. And that's where I was going at. So yes, so integration management is where you create the end product of your master data services. And then let's jump to version management. Version management is a very good section where you are maintaining multiple models. So if you had a location model and right now your team is very focused on product model, then go ahead, bridge that one, and rename it as version 2 of the location. All right. Yes. So version management, again, if you're creating reporting on top of that, it is very useful for your data steward as an audience. They can understand what has been happening in your master data services project and where you should be heading at from a developer standpoint, and where all of your business analyst as well as product owner is something where you create a AD group and then variously add all of the people inside that group. So make sure you're creating a group before you're creating or adding individual users. That way you can provide the access easily. I'm not going to go in detail into that as it is not a one-on-one section about master data services. Let's jump ahead to the next slide. So as you can see, these are my various use cases about what Power BI can do for master data. And I promise in my next presentation onwards, I am going to gain approval for all of the legal data that I have right now in my company and validate each and every use case that I have. And that's one of my personal because this is where my heart is in right now. It, 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 it has been a really good use case for
Can you, hey Swagatika, can you hear me? Wait. Swagatika, can you hear me?
Bridget, can you hear me now?
Yep, yep. Now I got you back.
Wow, it's been an interesting session. I just lost 20 people. All right.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think you started cutting out when you had flipped to the slide and
Yes.
again started talking about your company having legal data.
Yes. All right. So I believe that was this slide. I am resuming
Yes.
from here.
Do you have good signal on your laptop?
Interestingly, I do. And that's what I was trying to troubleshoot because the Wi Fi connection is heavy right now and I'm connected to two other servers.
Sure.
I am just unaware of what happened. Um, all right.
Okay.
Without further wasting time, let's get into it.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. So I was at this slide talking about what all a Power BI can do, the use cases, and I was just showing my interest for this particular slide because I am working on this area, and as I couldn't capture any of the legal data, I promise on displaying that in any of the SQL Saturdays next or any of the summit that's upcoming if I get a chance to. So what all we can do, the various use cases. The first one is talking about can present only subscription view related dashboard. I have a dummy demo on this. So if you're creating a subscription view, which is either your current row or your slowly changing dimension type 2 subscription view, this use case becomes in very handy in terms of displaying a pie chart or a graphical presentation if you're for location master data that what all states or what all countries does have your active user right now, and that is only for your location master data. And remember, when you're representing location master data related information, if you're generally 90% of the cases that if you're not active in your subscription view for that case, that means your client is completely inactive because you cannot have an active client with an inactive location in that particular location master data. So you don't have to necessarily continue your reporting further if you find these are the inactive cases from my subscription view, which is SCD type 2, I don't have to do any further analysis, rather just get rid of all of those inactive data. So that comes in handy, and that's what one of the beautiful thing about your master data is. You get to know things or get to predict things way before you're performing any of the transactional operation on top of those data. Um, let's jump into the second use case. It can display individual model metrics for business user. As I said, location master or product master or customer master or your tax master that you have created as your model, it would talk about what all TIN number or the SSN number that you are using as a key in all of the domains, and what are the DBAs. And if you have been using master data services, DBA is nothing but a domain-based application. And report presentation, you can just capture only the DBAs that are across each and every model or each or every domain, and then have a report presentation on top of that. That would be really amazing to any of your data stewards, just to understand how is the EDW design going to follow this design, because MDS is upstream to that. So if you're doing a foreign key analysis or only the primary key report presentation, from there, your other downstream team members can take it easily, and that makes things very easier. And we have done that at our company successfully, so that was pretty cool. It can give a count of nightly master data incremental load details. Again, I'm coming from a team which is heavily associated with SSRS. Uh, we have multiple reports, and every day we gain client specific or non-client specific requests from managers, directors in terms of, hey, can you show me what was the customer ID and who were the analysts who were receiving the calls yesterday for those people. You don't have to run the whole report on top of like 10 or 20 attributes. You can just grab the incremental changes, which is usually 2 or 3 row changes, and that's a 5-minute work every morning. And if you're setting automatic reporting, you're good to go. And so that's been very helpful to our directors at other teams as well. The fourth use case is it can avoid data mismatch between entity-based staging table and MDS system tables. And I am speaking from my personal experience at my company. Because of the nature of the architecture of the tool, we often confuse between leaf tables and the tables which are ending with EN. That means that is an entity-based system table that was created when you created an entity at the UI. So oftentimes, because there is a lag in the architecture in terms that your subscription view is built on top of your MDM tables, which is entity-based table, ending with EN or hierarchy HS and stuff like that, and not on top of your leaf tables. So if you're doing a report presentation in front of, or a visual presentation in between the discrepancies between the leaf tables and your system tables, you are good to go. And that comes in handy for all of the developers. They can know where was the data model mismatch and what we should be doing to fix this, right? And then the fifth use case that I was talking about is basically only the business users who are very prone to fat fingering and can mess around your data pretty easily because you have given them access to the Explorer area, and they're just deleting, adding, and days and nights they can just play around the data without realizing what's the harm they are doing to the database. So that's when you can see if you have a lot of uneducated, if I want to use that word, in your company, and you definitely need to take action for that in terms of educating people about what is the use of MDM and why we are giving access to MDS Web UI. We have organized 2 weeks of training for our business users as well as data stewards and other teams, but oftentimes people don't understand, and they still keep complaining on, we were doing reporting on top of Excel sheet. What was the need of having master data in a web UI, which even doesn't look good? We are going to change around. We are going to play around, and things can get out of hand. And that's exactly when Power BI report for, or a visual presentation for master data can come handy. The last one was it can present a model deployment and batch errors results if for data stewards and developers. And that's one of the major thing other than the point 4 here, which is talking about the data mismatch. The If you have done multiple model deployment, you know what I'm talking about. The batch errors are displayed in your MDM web UI, and this is not an easy way to identify what happened. You would have to go to the table, entity-based table or hierarchy-based table, and identify the data mismatch between leaf tables as well as the subscription view as well as the entity view. And if you have done a subscription view on top of your model, and let's say your model has like how many entities, let's say 12 entities, and you're trying to do a join on top of each and every entity to provide a one single subscription view for your ADW users, things can get out of hand, and it just creates a lot of join issues, and then the query doesn't run well, and the other things that can go wrong. I can go on and on about it, but that's exactly when a report presentation for your developers are going to come easy, and it has been helpful for us. Again, I don't have the right data, but I'm talking from my own experience. All right, so MDM user experience, we're going to do a dashboard presentation here if it has come up. No, it's still waiting. We did talk about in terms of what all sections we have in the dashboard, and that's the admin section and the data section, which is mostly Explorer for data, and admin is system administration, integration management, and creating, giving access to user group permission. So we are good there. So let's get to the real question of this particular demonstration, that who gets to benefit from master data visualization. I wanted to talk about certain terms that we have been using a lot in the master data project when we are presenting that to our business executives, and these are not MDM term, and that's exactly why I wanted to do this demonstration. That what are the positive lineage that you're gaining for master data via doing this report presentation or the visualization on top of just master data, right? Are you talking about your cost? What is the cost associated for this Power BI integration with master data services? Literally nothing. You have to connect to your database and you're selecting your two subscription view. You even don't have to go to any of the leaf or entity-based tables that are system provided. If you're creating one subscription view, which is current row subscription view, and one subscription view, which is your slowly changing dimension type 2 subscription view, in that case, you can just select two columns on top of that rather than selecting the UID and the model IDs and whole other 20 attributes. You can easily represent the data gap between this subscription view, and that one report presentation would talk about your 150 attribute changes that you have done. And believe me, that does not require going to MDM web UI. That just is represented in one pie chart, right? With no cost investment. APIs for integration, rather than providing subscription view to your downstream system, you can ask any of your downstream system to grab that data from Power BI itself. Customization, literally nothing. I tried to introduce ArcGIS for my location master report presentation. That worked great. There are other nitty-gritty customization that you need to do on top of Power BI just to make it give it a good look. You can do, but that comes with no cost and minimal time investment. Is it user-friendly? Heck yes. In comparison to MDM Web UI, definitely. MDM Web UI requires IE, and sometimes it doesn't load. And the cached section in the bottom of the MDM Web UI does gets painful for all of the business user, doesn't load. And it's just the report is very user-friendly for your business user as well as for developers as well as data stewards. And the last point, which is very one of my favorite one, is talking about linear regression. If you have a really larger MDA model like us, you can look back and to what happened with the client data. One of the useful use case that I can give here is Dr. Feda. Again, that is one of the case which is very ranger, and by ranger I mean it's very security related. You are not supposed to give any of the client information across your teams. If you are one person who's working on that, you would have to enroll in the secure environment, and you cannot just run query out of that and make a join with any other table in there. So the security and the HIPAA compliancy issues are very strong for certain clients. And for those clients, when you're trying to and your relationship has been building over those people over years. And in those cases, you can identify where your relationship is heading towards. How many people out of the whole claimant section have got their money back? How many people are still running under the court cases? How many lawyers are still active for those cases? In those cases, linear regression is something which enhances your predictability pattern only for your master data for clients which are very active and with whom your relationship has been building over the years. And we identified that linear regression
Hey,
on
you're starting to
top of
cut out
your
again.
master data for client-specific ones. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do a sound check.
Yep, you're good now. I don't know.
Awesome. Perfect. Oh, can I get rid of the sound check right now? Can I? Huh. Can you see my sound check screen now?
Nope.
Okay, good. So we are good here. So I am displaying my incremental load SSIS package. As I told, you can push your data from your Excel sheet itself, or it is always advised rather than doing a bulk insert statement from your SQL end, you can do it for any pre-staging as well as staging area, as well as leaf tables. We are calling your stored proc at the SSIS package itself. So I'm particularly doing a SAD type 2 implementation for my SSIS package here. Again, this is not my company data. I am being very honest to what I do. So here is what the logic for my package. But if I have to present the yes, I am back again.
Yeah, you cut out for a second there.
Okay. Awesome. So I am talking about what I was saying is I have two types of subscription view here. The current row indicator subscription view and slowly changing dimension type 2 subscription view. So as you can see, I have queried the current row indicator one, and it has MUID. It has the version name. So it depends. So what is really interesting when you are presenting your master data is your subscription view can have each and every master data listed in each and every entity. But then again, if you're doing a visual presentation on top of this subscription view, you can nitpick and not expose any of the security related data and just capture, let's say, the cost center ID and the state that where this center is active on, right? And so that's what I did. So the Power BI presentation on top of your very selected master data comes very handy. And I know it's going to load now. It was just presenting. Uh, but the main purpose of presenting your master data in your Power BI is you can select active records, or you can select your particular 2 or 3 attributes out of your big data set and give your master data key metrics related visualization in a better way to your executive leadership. And tune in for my session tomorrow where I will be talking about master data management metrics. And that is exactly when, even if you're using any other tools which is other than master data services for your master data management delivery, you can nitpick or select particular attributes which are very active or which are very visualization oriented for your end user and customer and clients and hence further. So things start to look better when you're doing visualization on top of your master data. And I'm coming from a background where you take 2 or 3 months to convince your leadership that your company needs a master data project. And at times people are not convinced, people are not happy about the tool that you're picking, and it's a people project. And we all know that if you have done MDM implementation in your life ever, you know that it's not a product project, it's a people project. And people project can get the highest leverage if you're doing a visualization on top of your master data. And yeah, what did I miss? Yes, definitely you need to have your master data plugin as well as Power BI plugin for your data set. And you need to make sure that you're doing an incremental load, and you need to make sure you're picking the right metrics. Tune in to my session tomorrow, which will be talking about master data management metrics. And that was all about my demonstration. Do I have any questions?
One second.
Okay.
No, does not look like there are any questions.
Awesome. It was a very, very smooth presentation. And I'm being sarcastic. You get the tone.
We'll give it another minute, a couple of minutes at least, if there are any questions from the audience.
Great. Yeah. Yes.
So there were a few questions about the recording. Again, all of these sessions are recorded, and they're usually made available within a few days after today's event, or after this whole 24 hours of PASS event. PASS will be sending out an automated email to all of the registrants when that file is published. So there's one specific question. Is MDS in SQL Server 2017 a big difference than what it was in 2016?
Actually, no. You get all the DBA benefits. And if you're doing hierarchy implementation, things haven't changed anything. And I was going here with my demonstration here that the hierarchy in the MDS 2017 is just the derived one. Explicit hierarchy you cannot do, but for my company's use case that I had, I wasn't able to do that in MDS Web UI. So what we are trying to do is we are doing a hierarchical presentation in our reports rather from the metrics, but all other features in 2016, 2017 stays the same. There hasn't been any changes.
Excellent. We can give it another minute.
Yes. Yeah. And I definitely can reiterate certain facts that I believe I was missing out during the bad audio connection in my session tomorrow in Master Data Management Metrics.
So can you? So okay. So there's a couple questions that just came in. So is there a place that you can find samples of MDM with Power BI?
That's a very interesting question. And so this idea of mine about MDS Power BI came in one fine night when I was thinking or mulling over in an Einstein mode. So there is no such documents over internet. I believe there is only one user group where one person asked about, can we have Power BI for master data? And some other person replied, yes, we should, and vote here. And I saw that 20 votes were given to that. So this is a very new topic, and I am feeling really good that I did it for my project here. And I believe Epic is the first organization in the Northwest, at least, which is doing Power BI visualization for master data. So sadly, no, but reach out to me if you have any questions about this new initiative if you want to do at your company.
You may want to pull up your slide with your contact information while we're doing the
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
So there are a couple other questions also that came in. One of them is, can you extract info from SAP HANA?
I cannot answer that question. If you're exporting that to Excel sheet and then doing it for MDS, yes. That is one of the easy way to do it. But with 3 of my clients, all of them luckily had only Excel sheet and SQL Server platform or flat files as source system. So sorry, I cannot answer that. Here is my contact information. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or mail me. Either way is fine.
Excellent. So there was also one other question that came in asking why we would use MDM. Can't we use some table joinings in SQL Server and connect it with Power BI?
Oh, yes. And that is the exact use case that 99% of the company are doing right now. But I am coming from a company which has 90% of the data as master data. And we decided to be fancy in terms of providing a better master data management solution, which is not in the EDW era. And when I'm talking about EDW era, you might have seen this in many companies. They talk about their enterprise data warehouse as EDW, but what it is exactly is a simple ODS. They don't have all the change data capture implemented sitting on 2008 R2 and stuff like that. So if you want to provide all of this solution in a better or a well-designed EDW, go ahead, do that. But if you want to segregate your company data in terms of master data, this is one of the best solutions. So it depends on what picture you're fitting into, and hence take it from there.
All right. So there's only a couple minutes left. If there's no other questions, I'd like to thank Swagatika for the presentation. And our next the next webinar up in our lineup is the Microsoft BI on Linux.
Thank you so much for your time and everyone who attended. Have a wonderful day.
Yep. Have a good day, guys.